It has struck me over the past several years, going around Washington, D.C., talking to Democratic leaders on both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue, at how vexed they have been at handling a fire hose of falsehoods, whether it's about the election, whether it's about COVID, you name it, whether it's about QAnon conspiracy theories, charges of pedophilia. Top Democratic leaders just sit there and they go, my God, what do we do? How do we respond to all of the lies that seem to come at us nonstop, that lies that people know are lies? And it has been really vexing. I would just recommend, again, that they look at a speech that Senator McMorrow gave out of Michigan earlier this week that you and I have talked about. And I'll tell you why, and I don't think I'm overstating this. That was a moment in time where a woman was accused of being a groomer, of being part of some QAnon pedophilia ring. And I say, if every Democrat in America takes that pose, or anybody, any person who is being lied about in the political arena takes that pose, it will be every bit as important as when Welch said to McCarthy, "Have you no shame, sir? Have you no shame?" Because let me just say, all over America, Republican candidates are accusing their Democratic candidates of being groomers. And you have Ron DeSantis' spokesperson accusing Republicans who do not agree with Ron DeSantis of being groomers, of being champions of pedophilia. That is how, that is how widespread this has become, John.
Well, Joe, you can't, you truly can't overstate it. You know, I've been in Florida this week, right? So in Tallahassee for all this DeSantis stuff, and just on this one issue, talking to Democratic legislators, members of the House, members of the Senate, Republican legislators, members of the House, members of the Senate, the way in which these particular charges, the notion, you had, Disneyland is not just being, Disney World is not just being attacked, it's being portrayed as pedo world. That's what those protests were over the weekend. That's the language of pedophilia and grooming, as you just suggested. It's not an isolated case. I know you're not saying it is, but I'm stunned, truly stunned, that in Tallahassee and all over the state of Florida, there's not a congressional race, there's not a state legislative race in which the Democrat in that race is not, by someone, an outside group, a voter, or an opponent, or the strategist for an opponent, being accused, if they oppose any element of the DeSantis culture war agenda, of being accused, either implicitly or explicitly, of being on the side of pedophiles or themselves being a groomer. So what that Michigan state legislator did is broadly applicable, and as much as it's around and in the water now, that video is also out there. The virality of that video is incredible. Democratic legislators in Tallahassee, every single one I talked to and asked, have you seen that video? They said, oh yeah, we've seen the video. She was incredible. So it goes to your point. I don't know what the long-lasting effects of that speech will be, but it got noticed down here in your former home state, and there are a lot of Democrats who took notice and said, yeah, that's the way we have to go. Will they be able to actually adopt it? Will they stick to it? Will they deliver it as well as she did? I don't know about any of that, but I'll tell you, it's not like they're like, what, Michigan? I never heard about that thing. That was like the shot heard around the world in Democratic politics, because they're all confronting this particular lie, which is now kind of running in tandem with the other big lie about the election being stolen. It's the two things you're hearing on the campaign trail early in this race. If you're a Republican, you got to say that the election was stolen in 2020, and you got to say that Democrats are on the side of pedophiles. That's basically what it's come down to in your former Republican Party.
And her name is Senator Mallory McMorrow of Michigan, and we had her on the show a couple of days ago, John, and I asked her, the woman who accused you, the sitting senator who accused you of being a groomer, when you looked her in the eye and made this speech, what did she do? She said, I was looking at the back of her head the entire time. She was embarrassed that she had been called out for what she did. So maybe that is the answer. John, you're in Florida covering, you mentioned this Disney story here. Governor DeSantis taking on Disney in Florida, which is staggering on its own. I read some conservatives and heard from some conservatives yesterday even who said, okay, Governor DeSantis, you won the fight over this bill. Now you don't need to go in and sort of salt the earth and take away everything Disney has, the special privileges of self-governing and everything else. You don't have to tear down Disney World, which is the largest private employer in the state of Florida. What does that fight look like in the state of Florida? Does Governor DeSantis largely have the backing of Republicans on this?
Governor DeSantis has I mean, look, Willie, you can't. Again, I'll say another. I'll use that. You can't overstate. But DeSantis is in a position that everyone in Florida politics and the Republican Party says he's the strongest governor. And when I say strongest, I don't mean best. I mean exerting his political will over his party with greater strength and force than any Republican governor in the history of the state, probably than any Democratic governor in the history of the state. Jeb Bush was a pretty strong governor here in terms of having party loyalty. DeSantis is a totally different beast. He's way, way more powerful. So it's not a question of whether he has the backing of the party. It's that he is telling the state party what to do, and they are doing it. In this case, you know, the two things that happened in the special state legislative session, one was the redistricting situation. That was a situation where the House and the Senate had proposed a new district map to try to get approval from the governor. So it was already a map that was favorable to Republicans and was supposed to curry favor with DeSantis. DeSantis looked at the map and said, nope, I don't want that map. Here's my map, and put a map in front of them that was even more favorable towards him and towards Republicans and diluted black voting power even more. And they said, okay, whatever you say, Governor DeSantis. And in this case with Disney, a lot of people thought that they were winning on the issue as a culture war issue, that beating up Disney over what the opponents of the bill call the Don't Say Gay bill, that was a winning culture war issue for the Republican base, but symbolic only. Don't take the next step. Don't actually go after Disney on an economic basis. Don't hit their bottom line. DeSantis was thought to be leaning in that direction, and then out of nowhere, shocking everyone, Democrats, Republicans, and reporters, he just decided on Tuesday, nope, we're going to punish Disney for no other reason that they opposed the bill. After it was passed, it wasn't they didn't fight the passage of the bill. They said critical things about it after it had become law. So, you know, and what happened? 48 hours later, Disney has lost a special tax status that they had since they came to Orlando in 1967. That just went away like that because Ron DeSantis wanted it.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary. He's got the whip hand in the politics here. Whether it's going to work for him in the long term, I know, Joe, you think it's not. But at this moment, he's just on an incredible roll and winning left, right, and center, and his approval rating keeps going up.
Yeah. I got to say it's so stupid, and it's so stupid because Disney created New Florida. Modern Florida. This is an awful lot like the Texas governor deciding to own the libs in a way that cost taxpayers in Texas and the economy $4 billion. The taxes that are going to be like piled on millions of Floridians because of this. Absolutely insane. And going after Disney, the Magic Kingdom still, I'm thinking probably among Floridians, probably among Americans, a much higher approval rating than the Tallahassee Republicans have. David Ignatius, though, I want to, David Remnick, I want to underline here. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
This was funny.
But the Florida GOP agenda, ban math books. They are banning math books and lying about critical race theory being in math books. And they're lying about it. They declare a war on Walt Disney. They raise state taxes on Floridians by attacking the Magic Kingdom. And they want to raise federal taxes on millions and millions of working class voters and middle class voters because Rick Scott is angry. He thinks taxes fall disproportionately on his richest donors. These guys are crazy. These guys are out of their mind. These guys have lost the plot. And this extremism will fall back on them. But, David, you can talk about that. You can talk about my tweet, because I know that's why you came on the show. But I wanted to talk about something that something that struck me as I hear all of this talk about pedophilia, and it struck me as being a former Republican and listening to what Donald Trump did, like the others, It was about the others, right? So first, Hispanics were breeders. You remember that during the campaign? He said Hispanics were breeders. And then in December of 15, he talked about the Muslim registry. He became president, and we had Charlottesville, and he preached moral equivalency. Then we had, remember, just the ugly scene of Trump telling black members of Congress and Muslim members of Congress, go back home, go back from where you came from, right? So now, what are they doing? They're desperate to make white Christian suburban moms the other. So how do they do it? Because they can't call a Michigan senator who is a white Christian suburban mom the other by her lifestyle, by her upbringing, as they do with Hispanics, as they do with Muslims, as they do with black Americans. So what do? They accuse her of pedophilia. And they're not only doing it to her, they're doing it to other members of Congress across Michigan, across Florida, across America. That's their new other. Agree with Donald Trump, be on our side in the culture war, or you support pedophilia. It is sickening.
Well, I think what you have just said and what John's just reported from Florida makes enormous sense and is absolutely true. We have to look at it in an even more holistic way. Every time this kind of culture war tactic from far-right Republicans is used, it works. It works. Why is Glenn Youngkin in the position that he's in now? Because of his incredibly subtle analysis of the economics of Virginia? No, it's because he exploited a hot-button culture war, complete nonsense issue, critical race theory in the schools, which doesn't exist.